she stepped onto the cobblestone street just outside the venue, wearing something no one expected. While the crowd at Paris Fashion Week buzzed with luxury logos and the latest runway pieces, she arrived in a bold, unusual outfit, rich textures, strange cuts, and colors no one dared to combine. Instantly, cameras pointed her way, but not with admiration. Laughter echoed softly. A group nearby whispered and rolled their eyes. "Who let that asterisk in?" One sneered. She heard it all, but she didn't flinch. Instead, she walked straight through the entrance like she belonged there. No one recognized her. She wasn't a celebrity, influencer, or fashion insider, at least not one they knew. And her look didn't scream mainstream elegance, but it was deliberate, every thread placed with purpose. A few even took photos, clearly assuming it would be shared as a fashion fail. What they didn't realize was that the outfit she wore wasn't off the rack. It was a custom piece from one of the most exclusive and forward-thinking fashion labels in the world. And she wasn't just wearing it, she was connected to it in a way that would change the room's entire opinion within minutes. What happened next turned whispers into stunned silence. Phones that once recorded her to mock were now frantically searching her name. Because the moment they saw the label, the truth came out, and suddenly, everyone wanted a photo. But by then, she wasn't standing still anymore. She had already moved on. Her name was Elara, and she had spent most of her life behind the scenes of fashion, not in the spotlight, but in the stitching rooms, the fabric warehouses, and the quiet corners where real creativity was born. She didn't have a massive online following or a stylist pulling pieces for her. Everything she wore, she either designed herself or selected from obscure designers with real vision, labels that valued artistry over trend. But at Paris Fashion Week, that didn't matter to most. People judged what they could recognize, and Elara's look didn't come with a famous logo splashed across it. What no one knew was that her outfit was from *Lisnoir*, a label whispered about in elite circles, known only to the highest-tier designers and collectors. The kind of brand that doesn't even have a public website, just private showings, custom fittings, and clientele that includes royalty and reclusive billionaires. And Elara wasn't just a fan of the label, she was the daughter of its founder, and recently, one of the lead creative voices behind its new direction. Still, as she walked through the Paris venue, she could feel the eyes following her, not with curiosity, but with quiet judgment. A few fashion bloggers even snapped pictures, clearly planning to mock her for being off-trend. Elara kept walking, chin up, never giving them what they wanted, because she knew something they didn't. The show hadn't even started yet. And when the first model walked the runway wearing a collection she co-designed, everything would change. Backstage, the energy buzzed with tension. Models were being styled in silence, makeup artists focused, and Elara stood near the edge of it all, watching her work come to life on others. No one backstage mocked her. Here, people knew who she was. But even here, some didn't take her seriously. A senior stylist whispered that she was only on the creative team because of her family name. Another rolled their eyes when she adjusted a model's sleeve. She had faced that kind of quiet dismissal before. The fashion world claimed to love new voices, but only on their terms. Meanwhile, a fashion blogger named Juno, who had snapped Elara's photo earlier, was getting curious. She had zoomed in on the detail of the outfit and spotted a signature embroidery only one brand used, Lisnoir. Suddenly unsure, she started connecting dots. But it was too late to take back the mocking tone of her earlier post. The show was about to begin, and the truth was one look away from exploding. The lights dimmed, and the music started, slow, cinematic, pulsing through the air like a heartbeat. But impossible to ignore. Gasps followed. Phones came up. Then another model appeared, and another. Each piece bolder than the last, blending old-world craftsmanship with daring modern forms. The audience, once restless and full of side chatter, had gone quiet. They weren't just watching, they were captivated. Backstage, Ilara didn't move. She stood near the curtain, hands clenched, her heart racing. Every garment was part of her. Every detail had a story. But as the show progressed, tension rose. Whispers were beginning to spread. A few editors had caught on. The embroidery, the structure, the fabric choices, it all felt different from what they'd seen before. Then came the real shock. The final model walked out wearing a striking ensemble Ilara had worn herself earlier in the day, now fully styled and transformed for the runway. A ripple of recognition hit the audience. Some realized they had judged the designer without knowing. Others still hadn't pieced it together. In the crowd, Juno sat frozen, her phone buzzing non-stop with comments on her earlier post. She stared at the model. Then backstage, the crowd was on their feet, cheering for a collection they didn't yet fully understand. But before anyone could leave their seats, an unexpected voice echoed through the venue. A guest speaker from the fashion house's team took the stage, holding a microphone. "You've just witnessed the debut collection of our new co-creative director," she said with a proud smile. "A designer who understands both legacy and rebellion." A hush fell over the room. "Please welcome Ilara Liz." Gasps swept the audience. Cameras swung to the side of the stage where Ilara now stood, lit up under a sudden spotlight. But instead of cheers, a strange silence followed. People were stunned, some realizing they had mocked her only hours earlier. Others looked confused, whispering that Liz Noor hadn't publicly announced a change in leadership. But before Ilara could take a step forward, another woman emerged from the opposite side of the stage. It was Claudia Liss, Ilara's estranged aunt and the former co-owner of the brand. She hadn't been seen in fashion circles in years. Her sudden presence wasn't planned. She took the mic and, with a cold smile, said, "I think there's something the world should know before we celebrate too quickly." Ilara froze. The team backstage exchanged anxious glances. Claudia's voice was calm but sharp. This collection wasn't entirely hers. A ripple of confusion turned to chaos. The moment that was meant to define Ilara's rise was now hanging by a thread. The room held its breath. Claudia's words cut deep, casting doubt just as Ilara was about to be recognized. Reporters raised their cameras again, capturing every flicker of confusion on Ilara's face. For a moment, she said nothing. Then, quietly but clearly, she stepped toward the microphone. "Claudia," Ilara said, her voice steady, "you haven't seen the inside of a design studio in 6 years. You walked away. I didn't." Murmurs rippled through the audience. Claudia narrowed her eyes but stayed silent. Ilara continued, "Yes, I carry my family name. But this collection wasn't handed to me. I spent months working on it." Introduced tonight. I only wanted the work to speak for itself. As if on cue, the head tailor from backstage stepped forward, nodding. "She's telling the truth," he said. "She led this entire line. We've never seen someone work harder." Applause began slowly, then built louder. Claudia, suddenly alone in her protest, turned and left the stage without another word. But as the moment settled, one final twist unfolded. Juno, the blogger, stood up and publicly apologized. "I judged her without knowing anything. Turns out, the woman I mocked is leading." And with that, the applause swelled. This time not just for the collection, but for Ilara herself. She stood center stage, no longer hidden in the shadows of her family legacy or the fashion industry's narrow expectations. Cameras now captured her not as a mystery, not as a target, but as a rising voice in high fashion. Paris Fashion Week had seen many surprises over the years, but this moment, when the mopped designer became the headline, felt unforgettable. Backstage, her team greeted her with Juno later posted a heartfelt piece online, not just correcting her earlier mockery, but highlighting Ilara's journey as an example of how fashion needs to evolve, how creativity should be judged by vision, not fame. That post went viral, and for the first time, Ilara's name trended not because of who her family was, but because of who she had become. The label *Lisnora* announced its new direction that evening, officially naming Ilara as its lead designer. From that day forward, her work was no longer anonymous. She had claimed her space, not just in the industry, but in the hearts of those who saw her story unfold. And as the lights of Paris dimmed that night, so did the doubt, replaced with something far more powerful: recognition.